of the real.
Welcome to the fifth podcast of the Eclectic Traveler. Thank you for your emails, Facebook responses, and support to this space where we hope to spark some interest in you through some cold, controversial topics. Do not forget to write to us to the following address, theeclectictraveler@gmail.com. theeclectictraveler@gmail.com. The author of this podcast
do not claim absolute truth of anything.
And most importantly,
the interviews shown in this podcast
sont légitimes et personnellement recherchés par l'Eclectic Voyageur.
We deeply thank all of those that participated in them.
Well, after that being said, let me share with you a thought that has been wandering around for a couple of years in my head, and it boils down to a question.
Hey!
Yeah?
Perhaps before we start, we should find a way to relax.
Okay. So, what do you suggest?
I suggest an ultimate prank call.
No, that's childish and stupid, and nothing good comes out of it.
Come on, it's not that bad. You gotta try it once, and
No.
if you don't like it, we'll do something else.
No, we don't have time for this. We're supposed to keep this podcast within 15 minutes.
What for?
Well,
Oh, don't tell me you can get more people to listen to this thing. No one does.
fine, I guess we can try just once. Just once, okay? I still think it's stupid, but anyways. Who should we call?
Just call some random dummy. Let me do it. Okay, now you.
Sir, we have your daughter, and we want $1 million for her. Otherwise, we'll kill her.
I don't know what you want. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
No way.
What the heck, man? That's not a prank.
Okay, that's it. We're changing to a new location. Thank you very much. Well, forget what happened and let's start again. I have a question for you.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
For those that have loved watching the Matrix trilogy, might find Morpheus's words more appealing as time goes by. The truth is that we do live in some sort of a matrix. That is something that keeps you from looking the real scenario.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
Subsequently, there is another question that comes right after we try to define what real is, and that is, what is truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
This is like Alex Jones type of rhetoric.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
Thank you, Morpheus. Thank you very much. There has to be a moment in our lives where we have to come down to two simple options. Morpheus?
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
I invite you to take the red pill today with me. In other words, to rethink and question those things that might have never interested you, and that might have more to it than you ever thought. Topics such as war, the educational system, social warfare, ethics, globalization, corporatism.
What is corporatism?
Corporatism? Well, corporatism in its basic definition is the control of a state, such as a country, by a large interest group or groups. In other words, corporatism is when the state and huge high-profiting businesses lucratively merge.
Wait, so this means corporations work through the state to maximize profits?
Exactly right. Let us start with some basic steps that might lead us to the reality of this problem. Do you know who Omar Torrijos was?
Some president of Latin America?
Good, pretty good. He was Panama's head of state from 1971 to 1981. He's best known for a treaty with the U.S. with President Jimmy Carter that gave back the Panama Canal to his people.
That is pretty outstanding.
Do you know who John Perkins is?
That one I don't know.
He was a former economic hitman, and now he's a very well-known author here in the United States. Listen to a fragment from the documentary Zeitgeist Addendum.
We economic hitmen really have been the ones responsible for creating this first truly global empire. And we work many different ways. But perhaps the most common is that we will identify a country that has resources our corporations covet, like oil, and then arrange a huge loan to that country from the World Bank or one of its sister organizations. But the money never actually goes to the country. Instead, it goes to our big corporations to build infrastructure projects in that country, power plants, industrial parks, ports, things that benefit a few rich people in that country, in addition to our corporations, but really don't help the majority of the people at all. However, those people, the whole country is left holding a huge debt. It's such a big debt they can't repay it, and that's part of the plan, that they can't repay it. And so at some point, we economic hitmen go back to them and say, listen, you owe us a lot of money, can't pay your debt, so sell your oil real cheap to our oil companies. Allow us to build a military base in your country, or send troops in support of ours to someplace in the world like Iraq, or vote with us on the next UN vote, to have their electric utility company privatized and their water and sewage system privatized and sold to U.S. corporations or other multinational corporations. So there was that whole mushrooming thing, and it's so typical of the way the IMF and the World Bank work, that you put a country in debt, it's such a big debt it can't pay it, and then you offer to refinance that debt and pay even more interest. And you demand this quid pro quo, which you call a conditionality or good governance, which means basically that they've got to sell off their resources, including many of their social services, their utility companies, their school systems sometimes, their penal systems, their insurance systems, to foreign corporations. So it's a double, triple, quadruple whammy.
Wow, John Perkins, interesting guy.
Well, I had the privilege to interview John Perkins. Let me share with you a piece of my interview with him, if you will.
Yeah, definitely.
Just pay attention to how he describes his job.
How was your relationship with Torrijos and other presidents or heads of states of Latin American countries?
Well, I had a great relationship with Omar Torrijos. I thought very highly of the guy. I had tremendous respect for him. And in fact, I respected the fact that he wouldn't be corrupted, that he wouldn't do what I wanted him to do. It was tough for me because my job was to do it, to get him, to bring him around, to corrupt him. But he wouldn't be corrupted. And I deeply respected him for that. On the other hand, it was difficult because I couldn't do my job. And I also feared for him. I knew that if he didn't come around, something dire would happen to him. I figured he'd be overthrown. I didn't really expect necessarily to be assassinated until after Jaime Roldos was assassinated, and then I figured Omar might well be. And I wasn't nearly as close to Jaime Roldos. I knew him, but I was quite close to Omar. He invited me to quite a few functions, parties, things, and he was an amazing guy, very charismatic and a lot of fun, and very had tremendous integrity, at least from a political standpoint.
So would you say that you played the role of a lobbyist for U.S. interest towards, presidents that will not like to accept those reforms on Latin American soil? Is that what would be?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is what economic hitman does, tries to corrupt the leaders of developing countries. Do you have more?
So who would get benefited the most from this kind of treaties? Corporations.
Yeah, so we created a corporate empire. It's not an American empire. This empire is really not benefiting most people from the United States. I mean, sure, we have a pretty good life here in a way, although the middle class is fading fast in this country. There's tremendous problems in this country, and we really are not benefiting significantly from this. The people in the United States were a lot better off, I think, 20, 30 years ago than they are now. It's the big corporations that are benefiting. And in fact, the stuff that's come out with Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks shows that this is all about corporations. The National Security Agency, the CIA, the Pentagon, U.S. embassies around the world are there to support corporations, not the American people. If I or another average citizen walks into the embassy in Brazil, the U.S. embassy in Brazil, we're not going to get much help. If we've lost our passport, something simple like that, they'll help us. But if we go in looking for help to set up a small business, they're not going to help us. But if we represent Exxon or Chevron or Monsanto or Nike or some other big American corporation, they'll drop to their knees and do anything we want.
You can find examples of criminal corporatism that will never be punished.
To build a better world sometimes means tearing the old one down.
Tu es en train d'écouter le podcast du voyageur éclectique.